Hello and welcome. I'm Jack Marsh of Sioux Falls, joined by my longtime friend and distinguished colleague, Michelle Lavallee, who today is President and Chief Executive Officer of South Dakota's Children's Home Society. It is my great privilege to lead this in-depth discussion with Michelle, exploring her impactful life and career, her formative experiences, defining chapters, her enduring values, her perseverance, and her commitment to excellence. This oral history is one of a series featuring accomplished South Dakotans and is being recorded on December 2nd, 2025. Michelle, by any measure, you have led a remarkable life, an impactful life. Uh, you've had a good life.
Indeed.
Um, and a recap here, summarize what I see here. So, a native South Dakotan, raised in on the homestead of your grandparents, uh, a daughter of the baby boomer generation, a cowgirl,
Mhm.
rural roots
You bet.
in South Dakota, uh, instilled with South Dakota values, the South Dakota values certainly of your parents, particularly your father, who was a cowboy himself, um, someone who left South Dakota maybe in search of greener pastures, but it's probably more complicated than that, but you left the state for 20 years,
Mm.
uh, lived in 5 other states. You traveled the world. Uh, you were married to and still are married to a highly successful
Mm.
corporate CEO, and you 2 enjoyed
A
have
big
enjoyed
life.
the a good life, and for about a dozen years of your marriage, early in your marriage, you were in a supporting role.
Mhm.
A stay-at-home mom, an executive's wife,
Mm.
focused on raising your son, Chris, where you did a superb job.
Thanks.
Uh, and then there came a midlife reset uh, that included you completing your schooling at Northwestern with a bachelor's, and then going on to an MBA, and then the launch of wow, an amazing career as a corporate and nonprofit executive. Um, you earned senior leadership roles with multiple highly respected companies, nonprofits, institutions, and organizations in South Dakota. Among them, the University of South Dakota, Avera Health, Raven Industries, Northwestern Energy, plus volunteer leadership with the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra, the South Dakota Hall of Fame, South Sioux Falls Development Foundation, Sioux Falls Downtown Rotary, the Beacom School of Business at USD, South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Washington Pavilion of Arts and Sciences, the Vision Foundation, Ronald McDonald House, and the Argus Leader Community Advisory Board. And then you even managed to take a year out and run for lieutenant governor with Billy Sutton, and you 2 nearly won, right? So not only do you have an amazing record of corporate and nonprofit leadership, but you also have been an incredible leader in terms of community service and public service. Today, you're at the pinnacle of your career, Chief Executive Officer of South Dakota's oldest and premier child and family welfare organization, Children's Home Society of South Dakota, serving the most vulnerable children, women, and families in our state. A $40 million budget, 400 employees, programs in all 66 counties. Under your watch, a new shelter for family safety opened in Sioux Falls. The the turnover rate of your 400 employees became your retention rate. 80% turnover in your employees annually when you started the children's home. Today, a retention rate of nearly 80%. Um, Under development today, a $50 million campus in Rapid City to bring vital mental health services and residential and outpatient treatment programs to children and families in West River, South Dakota. Complicated work, difficult work, critically important work, and what you describe as the capstone of your career. Uh, these are remarkable accomplishments for anyone, let alone a woman born in rural South Dakota in 1958, when many women were denied opportunities, discriminated against, and otherwise uh, disrespected. Novelist Thomas Wolfe is credited with the familiar phrase, "You cannot go home again." Michelle, you did come home again, and you've made transformational positive impact in your native state as a business and nonprofit leader, a good and honorable human being, as an innovator and problem solver, and as a mentor and a role model, particularly to girls and other women. My question, Michelle, how did you pull this off? And what is your message today to the young people of South Dakota who have similar dreams and aspirations?
You know what, Jack? You can leave, but you'll come back, and you'll come back better. You'll come back better. Honestly, I know there's so many that think that they have to leave here and stay gone to have a big career. The truth of it is what I tell people, yeah, go out and find yourself. There find what like I needed to. I need to go and see the bigger world, but this is a state unlike any other state where we're still kind and civil to one another. Having lived in all the places I've lived and traveled, I have this sense in my heart for South Dakota where I believe that there's so much here and we're still growing and refining. We always say we're 10 years later than either coast. You know what? That's okay. My whole life, wherever I was so proud to be from South Dakota. I mean, we know our senators' names. We sit next to them on the airplane. They call us by our first name. That just impresses the heck out of folks, right? And we all love to do that. But I tell young people now, um, yeah, study hard, be a good student, go away to college if you need to, find a job, come back and use those skills and make us better. Because I think that's what I did. I think that I went out and learned new things, learned new skills. And I think if the one thing that maybe stitches my whole careers together, and when you say, how did I do it? It really was that tremendous drive, intellectual curiosity, and just the sheer hard work and belief that you can do anything.
You were blessed with incredible parents. I've
Mm.
heard you multiple times
Yeah.
just glowingly talk about your f your father, Bud Gross, a cowboy from, here around
I
South
should say
Dakota,
cattleman. I
cattleman.
prefer cattleman.
Uh, your mom, Rita, who's still with us,
Oh, yeah.
almost 90 age
Yeah.
97. Um, they gave you an incredible
Oh,
foundation. So, what were the values and lessons, from your childhood that have stayed with you throughout your life?
that you can do hard things. You can do hard things if you just try. That's the whole piece about perseverance. When your dad says, "Here, take over and drive the truck so he can throw bales of hay out," and you're 6 years old, you're like, "What?" But you do it, and you get such satisfaction from doing it. Or to help your mom cook for the sharecroppers. You've got 25 men there that are out, cutting the crops, but you have to be in the kitchen to cook for them. I think that is about the hard work and about understanding that they gave me, they didn't have money, but what they had was their time and their integrity and their heart, and, oh, man, it's unconditional love. That's what it is. It's being loved no matter what you do, no matter what your grades were, no matter if you wanted to go to college or if you didn't, I'm gonna love you no matter what, and that to me is priceless, Jack.
So, you've had these high-level executive positions with a number of our finest institutions and companies in South Dakota. All right. I think University of South Dakota, Raven Industries, Northwestern Energy, Avera Health, uh, Children's Home Society. What stands out to you as your proudest accomplishments, uh, and the roles that have really been most meaningful and fulfilling for you?
I have to say my current role, Children's Home Society as president and chief executive officer, is the most fulfilling for me because the mission is so much in front of you. The decisions that you make directly impact people's lives. The staff that we hire, to teach our kids or to be their therapists. Jack always used to say that you're doing God's work, and I think we are doing God's work there. I think what we've accomplished there to bring Children's Home along, to build the infrastructure for where it can be for the next 133 years, I wanna be remembered for that. I wanna be remembered for that, for sure.
Michelle, people look at your resume and they see all these incredible accomplishments. Uh, uh, is it a straight line to
Mhm.
the top, or are there setbacks were there setbacks along the way, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, there definitely were. It's nonlinear. My career has definitely been nonlinear. There's some setbacks maybe all along the way, but you persevere through those setbacks, and I think people say you learn more from the setbacks. For me, it was just the ability to continue, uh, to stay the course, but to also think of new ways to do things, Jack. I have been so blessed to be a person that, if you don't like this, how about these 10 other ideas? I always have 10 more things in my back pocket, and maybe that's why I was great, on the marketing and creative side, because I'm used to people saying, "No, that is not a great plan. Let me go back. Let me fix that." And I can do that again and again and again. I think for me, it's any setback has been, um, something that I could overcome because of that, just like a dog on a bone. And the saying that everybody that's worked for me knows is I say, "How hard can it be?" Kenyon Gleason, who worked for me both at USD and at Avera, gave me a big framed photo of really rough mountains, and it said, "How hard could it be?" And I had that in my office all the time, and they'd always laugh. Well, turns out sometimes it can be really hard. I kinda stopped saying that a little bit at Children's Home.
Uh, aside from your career and your professional work and your focus on family, I know is dear to you, uh, you've also been giving in so many other ways through community service, volunteer board service. You even ran for statewide office. You were a candidate for lieutenant governor. You almost won. You and Billy Sutton
What's
almost
2
you almost won.
points? 11,000 votes.
What what also motivates you to give back,
Mhm.
to be involved in your community, to help advance, uh, this lifestyle, that we all enjoy in South Dakota, or many of us enjoy in South Dakota? Why do you feel
You
so
know
obligated to
Yeah.
pay forward the blessings that you've received?
I think for me, so much of being on different boards is because I truly like having a place at the table, and for everyone that I went to, they recruited me for board positions for very particular skills, I think, whether it be strategy or the ability to, have a real focus on business development. But the reason I do that, I think, is a variety. I think because I have been, um, surrounded by a lot of wonderful experiences and good luck, I love being out there to give back, especially to a nonprofit or a community organization where you can help them envision the future a little bit differently. I loved my time on every board. I mean, I especially, I especially loved certain parts of being on the Sioux Falls Development Foundation to watch how our city was growing. Um, that was a really important part of how I spent a couple of years there with them. But I wish that I would have done real public service as a politician earlier, because once I got into it, what I realized is that that is truly giving of yourself. Truly, that's true community service. That's truly, you get paid nothing and it's hard. And you ask people to give you money and then you don't win. And they gave you thousands of dollars, right? I wish that I would have known about it sooner, Jack, because I think I would have done it earlier in my career. I would have tried to serve in our legislature. What now that I work with them through Children's Home, I understand how you have to know a lot about a lot of different things to be able to be a good legislator and make good decisions for our state. It was an honor, really serving with Billy Sutton. I mean, in a lot of ways, he reminded me of my father. You gotta have
Sutton's a cowboy.
that's right, and it's true grit, you get back, you get bucked off, and you just keep getting back on. You get knocked down and you get up again, and his philosophy of never leaving anybody behind, I couldn't articulate that when I was younger, but leaving people behind is what we're seeing in today's government, in our country. I would have been so proud to represent South Dakota. I don't know, maybe still will. Maybe there'll be another capstone
Really?
course. I don't think so.
I'll be your campaign manager. Tell us a bit more about your family and the role that they've played in your journey. Your son, Chris, your husband, Paul
Mhm.
Lavallee. Uh, you've already spoken about
My folks, yeah.
your folks, but talk about the importance of your family to you,
Yeah.
and let us learn from that a little bit.
When people say, "What do you want on your tombstone?" You don't really want it to be, "I was a great executive. I got everything done on time. I won these 5 awards." What you want it to be is that you were a good mother, a good spouse, and a good person, and that's the way I wanna be remembered. I mean, I've been 44 years, 43 years actually with Paul, and, Paul has been so much more than a spouse to me. Paul has been my best friend. Paul has been a true mentor. I mean, because I was with him when I was so young, he really did mentor me. He's the one that I would come home at night after work, and I relied on his counsel in every one of my jobs because he's a little bit older. He'd been through it, and he understood how I thought about it, and he understood when I was making an emotional decision. He understood when I should just hold the line. He's been my best counsel, and I'm as I look back on our life together, and especially now that he's got a pretty rough illness, we're spending a lot of time reflecting on what our life was like and the kind of life we made for each other and the kind of child who Chris is about. I mean, I always say he could have been in the, Peace Corps. He is a guy that, is just so completely giving of himself. He doesn't have that need to have all these things. What he wants is to be a good dad, and I watch how he parents his kids, and I'm so proud of him. I was married during a time when Paul traveled more than half the year all over the world, but we expected it. That's how you made money. Young men today understand the need to be home with their kids, and I just look at him, and Paul and I look at what he's doing. He's a coach. He's, raising his kids. He's a wonderful teacher. He leads special ed, and he does it with the heart, I guess maybe a heart of somebody that also knew trauma, but he knows how these kids feel and what they're going through. So, Jack, I think of my family and how, at this stage of my life, how that's the most important. Maybe it always was, but boy, do I know it now. And I'm proud of the life we built, and I'm proud of, I think, who we've all become and how we've lived our life.
You also give back because
Mhm.
you mentor others.
Oh,
Yeah, uh, mostly, mostly women, but
mostly women. I've
but
had some young men
but
too. Yeah.
but I know some men as well.
Uh,
What talk about your role as a mentor and why you treasure that.
well, I have to tell you, I remember when somebody asked me to mentor them, I felt like I was still in the role of being mentored myself. there was a few years there that I had to make that transition and realizing that now I'm the one that's gonna be giving the advice, and I have had such satisfaction out of watching these young women. The young women that I mentored were all women that were just wanting to make that next move in their career, and they were motivated and easy to mentor. And they wanted to be able to ask me really practical things, right? And I gave of that. I mean, through the MB program, I did 5 years in a row with different I was mentoring people well before that, and just like now, I'm not doing the MB program, but still have several people that I'm mentoring. I am so proud of what they've become. There's 3 of them that are running local nonprofits here. I've got one that's an author, a best-selling author, one that's a senior vice president of healthcare marketing in Oklahoma. I mean, and we all keep in touch. In fact, on the first day that I went to children's home, they all called me and took me out to lunch. It's one of the pictures that I'm most proud of because they talk about what I meant to them and to their success. And now how they're having kids and how they're getting married. And I bet you they're all starting to mentor because they're all in their 40s.
Uh, the people around you say that you seem to have boundless energy. Now, where do you get that energy? What motivates you?
You know, my energy level is even as a kid, I had high energy. I mean, not the kind of kid that bounced off the walls, but I was physically active. But you know what? My glass is always half full. I think it's my outlook in life where I believe anything is possible if we just work hard enough to get there. You just have to work hard. But even if I have a couple bad days, I can't. I am blessed to be able to have such a positive outlook on life. And I mean, my mom's like that. I mean, she never let things bother her for very long, no matter what was going on, no matter if they didn't have money, what was going on in their life that was hard. Um, it's about being forgiving too, Jack. I can't hold a grudge. And I always heard that forgiveness is a gift. I can't, even if I want to hold a grudge, I can't. I feel like I'm so lucky to have a disposition that's I am truly, truly the optimist in the room. And it's God given, I think. I think it's maybe how you were born. And because I felt like I think people that have rough childhoods, maybe that really does impact them. But I was around people that loved me and that we were I didn't know it. Most of our activities were really designed around work. And I think that there was some kind of success to that and going home and going to bed and being tired and getting up and doing it again and doing it with your family. So those are some values that I think never leave you, never leave you.
Are there other values and philosophies that have guided your decisions and how you conduct yourself and how you lead?
You know, I think I do lead with from a business philosophy. I'm always surprised that people don't spend enough time to say in the planning phase of where you're going. So that's why people hate strategy, but I have built my career on being able to be a strategic planner and to be able to say, how do we make it better? And what does this place look like in 5 years? That is kind of how I hang my hat on looking at looking at situations and being able to do a plan and to be able to plan for what's the exit and how do we improve. I do think that I'm all about making things better, you know? Maybe not creating it from scratch, but maybe going in and seeing I can really clearly see where the holes are, and I know how to plug those holes, even if sometimes I have to make another pass at it. That has been that's been probably some of the most satisfying things for me is the perseverance and the ability to see clearly what needs to be improved and how to improve it and to make people believe that it can be improved. That's probably one of the biggest things in my mentorship is to help them believe in myself. Some of the best compliments I've had from people that I've mentors is she made me see something I never thought I'd be able to do that. Julie Ward at Avera, never. You're gonna be the spokesperson for the organization. You're doing it. I could never
And
do that.
Julie Ward is one of the women you mentored.
She certainly is, and she became one of the best spokespeople because It's the belief in yourself. I have an ability to make people believe the best of themselves, and I didn't know that I had it until I got through a lot of different parts of my career to see the best in people and to see the best in the circumstance. That's the bright side, isn't it?
How important is your Roman Catholic faith?
Growing up as a Catholic, in such a Catholic, it does ground me. A lot of people don't know every weekend I take my mom. I drive to Huron and take my mom to mass on Sunday morning because it is so important to her, and really nobody's left to take her to mass. Um, it grounds you in the tradition, and it brings me back to who I am. So it is important. I think Catholics maybe don't talk the way other Christians talk about their faith, um, but it's bound in the tradition of really. We talk a lot about that. I still talk to the sisters about that. It's 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 their sense that they instilled in us that you take care of the people that need it the most, and they're still doing that work every single day. Uh, so that to me is all wrapped up in going through the sacraments as a child, in being respectful of the church. I always talk about when you're 6 years old and you have to go through confession. And you gotta think about what your sins are because you can't really think of any, and so we talk in the morning, "What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?" "Ah, let me say, I swore once I took a dime from my mom's purse. I'm sorry for these and all the sins of my life," right? We have to think about that because we had to go every week, and you couldn't get that many sins, but it made you think about it, and then they'd have you say 5 Our Fathers and 5 Hail Marys, and you'd have to go out and like, my brother would say he swore 20,000 times, and he'd have to say a whole rosary. But,
You still go to confession?
I haven't been for a while, I have to confess. The last time I went, they do it in face to face now, you just in the old days, you sat in the box, in the dark box, and you just whispered
Now you have to look 'em in the eye.
in the eye. Yeah, I did do that. I did it with Bev, my friend in Rapid City. We went to a woman's retreat. It is intimidating to me, but it's important, and I think you can confess, to God directly as well. You don't really have to go through the priest. We talk a lot about that, and I think that's kinda what contemporary Catholics do is you confess in your heart rather than, "Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been 10 years since my last confession. These are my sins." But the faith is still a big part of my life back, and part of that is, I think, the tradition, of being grounded in a belief system.
So how important are the qualities of such as integrity, decency, compassion, empathy?
I think we talk about that all the time. It's really living your values. Living your values, and there's no better time to talk about that than what we see today. The lack of integrity that we see in leaders or the lack of integrity we see in business people. I mean, for me, I think that's driven me all through my career, and to really think about what your family values are. I mean, we did an exercise with that once, and integrity and compassion and truth-telling, we're all parts of that for us. So, I think we found our ways to live that at different parts of our life.
I know you have a lot of joy because of your family, uh, great fulfillment and satisfaction from the job you're doing at Children's Home Society. What are the types of experiences that bring you the greatest joy or fulfillment?
Mm. Well, I think I mentioned one, seeing kids get adopted. That to me is or when others in our organization share photographs and stories of kids that have left us and that they have gone on and become part of a family and they've gone on. When we have people stop in and say, "I had this happen last Christmas." A young man that stopped in and said, "This place changed my life. I was here 20 years ago, and I look at this as a defining moment for me." That's the kind of joy that I'm looking for today. And of course, I get tremendous joy from watching my grandkids, Becca,
How many
too.
grandkids?
Becca's 16 and Deacon had just turned 14 a month ago. But watching them see the world and learn to speak Spanish, for example. We have a place in Costa Rica, so Becca has made it her goal. She's in her 4th year of Spanish. It makes me so happy. Or we sent her on a couple of mission trips so she could have that experience. Or right now we're working with an education coach because She doesn't know what college to go to. And when we lived in Chicago, everybody had an education coach. So you have somebody independent that tests you, that understands your strengths and your weaknesses, and that looks at your current grades. I mean, she's a STEM girl, but she's also a singer and a dancer and an actor. And so we're going through the process of helping her choose a school that has both of those elements as their education. And that gives me great joy. Or just watching the successes of other people and watching my son's marriage, for example, to be married to his wife said he's her best friend forever. That it's those experiences now I think that give me the most joy.
Any regrets in life? Would you like any redos if you could? Anything you'd change from your past?
Mhm. I wouldn't have stopped going to college. It
How
took
how
me
how
a
many
long
how
time
many
to
u
get
how
there.
many universities and colleges have you attended?
I do think it's 5 or 6. I But everywhere I went, I kept working on it and kept working on it. If I was 18 and just said, "Why didn't you stay at USD? You're doing great there." It was fun. But my roommate was also leaving because she found a boyfriend, so we always laugh and say,
Yeah.
it was your fault that we both left." Honestly, if she would have said she was coming back, we always talk about that. That might have impacted my decision, and she went with a guy named Mitch Teedy. So we look at each other whenever there's a problem, we go, "It's Mitch Teedy's fault."
Well, you did fine. It took you well, but,
It
I mean,
took me a while.
you ended up with, a bachelor's degree from a
A great
great
school.
institution, Northwestern, and an MBA from the Kellogg School, probably the finest business school in the country, so you did fine. Took you a while, but
I know,
you did fine.
you know what I always say about education? It's something that you work so hard for, but that nobody can take away from you. And that actually is some of my, some of the proudest things that I've done is completed that.
Michelle, if you hadn't gone into business, what would have been your, dream career? What would you wanna do?
Oh, I always thought I seriously, I even say it now, I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to play in a band. I mean it.
Did you wanna sing with the band or play in the band?
I wanted to sing in the band, but I can also play the keyboards, and I honestly think about that.
Well, you could still do that.
I could, and I could also do community theater. I mean, honestly, I knew that that's what I was supposed to do, but I had crooked teeth and we didn't have money for braces. And so I always felt like I couldn't do that. And then my dad said, "That's not a good life for you." Well, guess what? It would have been a great life.
But you've had a good life. Is there something, else about you that might surprise even your grandchildren or close friends or colleagues? Something that maybe you haven't disclosed prior to this?
Well, people are always surprised when I talk about how rural my roots were.
How rural were your roots, Michelle?
So growing up on a homestead, that if you sat on the land for 5 years, you got 160 acres of land.
And that's what your grandparents did.
And both sets of grandparents. I mean, it's sort of remarkable. It's that great migration here, and that was part of my history.
So are you a 3rd generation
I'm
South Dakotan?
I'm a 4th.
You're a 4th generation South Dakotan.
Isn't that
Okay.
amazing? Isn't that
Okay.
amazing?
Alright.
And so we had an old farmhouse that didn't have indoor plumbing. And
And you lived
so
there?
and we lived there, and there was, let's see, at the
There was
time,
no
5
indoor plumbing?
kids and 2 and my folks, and, I don't know even if it was very well heated. We had a pump, one of these pumps out on the porch, and that's where we truly would take our baths in truly those old tubs, wooden tubs, and I don't know, I don't think we were ever the kind that went from the oldest to the youngest, and the youngest had the dirty water, but we had an outhouse, and it was a double-seater.
Oh, now that's a surprise that it was a double-seater.
I mean, we were uptown with a double-seater. We were, most of our neighbors
Only had a single
had
seater.
only had a single.
That is quite a surprise.
And I am telling you, there was the Sears Roebuck catalog in there, and there were there were corn cobs. That was the toilet paper. I think that is still even a surprise.
Does Paul know about this?
Yeah, he does, and he never had that experience himself. He
Oh
was
my
a
goodness.
city boy.
You are a true, daughter of the prairie. If you could offer any advice to a younger version of yourself,
Mm.
say a 17-year-old freshman at USD uh, or a 21-year-old who fled the state?
Mhm.
What would it be?
You know, for me, it's always been this, especially as a female. You gotta be able to support yourself. You're you find what you love, and it won't feel like a job. Do something you love, and the money will follow. But I do give girls this advice because 'cause I've seen it a lot. My mother wouldn't have been able to support herself. I mean, if something would have happened in their family, she didn't have the education or the background. You Education to me is absolutely fundamental. And please don't get married when you're 19 or 21 or 24 or
You were married the
28
first time at what age?
at 19.
19.
And I can't even believe that. I would never, I mean, 19-year-olds now, you think that they'd be ready to get married? You're not even who you really are, I don't think. Men in their 40s, that's for sure. It takes men a lot longer to get there.
So you were married at 19, and that marriage didn't last.
But I got something wonderful out of it. A wonderful boy named Chris.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
And then you did find the love of your life
I
in
did.
Paul Lavallee.
And Paul
Few
Valley,
years.
and
He's still a love of your
he's
life.
still the love of my life.
South Dakota gave you a lifetime of opportunities right here, right? In your home state, which you did not squander, incidentally. Uh, what qualities of South Dakota and its people do you hope that future generations will preserve and embody?
Mm, that's a good question. I hope they preserve the rich history that we have here because it's the history I grew up with. They were pioneers. They had to they had to work hard and they had to persevere. I have a lot of, admiration for perseverance. I hope that stays, and I hope that South Dakota continues to innovate because they can and they are. I am terribly proud of my home state and what they've done, and I'm terribly proud of what's going on in our community in Sioux Falls, constantly being ranked as such a great place to work. I still think people come here and say, I can't believe how kind you are. I can't believe how real you are. I can't believe how friendly people are here. Let's not lose that as we do get bigger and as other industries come. We've got something special in South Dakota, and it was that way 67 years ago, and I hope it will be for the next 67 years, Jack.
I have one final question, and it's a very important one. Uh, how would you like to be remembered? How would you like to be remembered when you're gone?
You know, on the personal side, I think being a good mother and a wife and a good person, a good daughter, that I was caring and compassionate and did things for others. I think professionally, I would like to be remembered as an innovator, as a change agent. I mean, change is written all over me, and that I wasn't afraid to change, that I wasn't afraid to try new things, and I think that motivates people to take a chance, to take a risk, and to try it and try hard, and then if you have to change course, that you can do that. So I do think, it's a little different for me personally, than professionally, but I think all of us wanna know that we were good people and we lived our life with the right focus, raised kids, and was a good wife and a good friend.
Michelle, it's an absolute privilege for me um, to be able to conduct an interview like
Mm.
this. Uh, you've been vulnerable at times and certainly candid, and we can learn so much from your words, your deeds, and your example. So uh, I thank you for our friendship.
Thank you, Jack.
I thank you for all the projects we've had an opportunity to work on
We had
together over the years, and uh, you're a treasure, Michelle. You're an absolute treasure.
good friend, Jack. Thank you so much.